The president's decision to cancel or suspend billions of dollars worth of foreign aid is deepening the humanitarian crisis. Millions of people are not receiving any humanitarian assistance today, right now. I am remaining anonymous for this interview because I do fear legal retribution if my identity is found out.
As a reminder, the Trump administration has dramatically cut staffing for USAID, also known as the U.S. Agency for International Development. Out of over 10,000 employees, only 300 remain. Trump has been a long-term critic of overseas spending, arguing that it fails to deliver value for American taxpayers. He has directed particularly harsh criticism towards USAID, labeling senior officials there as radical lunatics. A recently furloughed USAID employee spoke to Brut on the condition of anonymity due to a Trump administration order barring USAID staffers from talking to anyone outside of their agency.
The impacts and the consequences in the halt of foreign aid has been immediate, and it has been devastating. In the most desperate places, like Sudan, the fallout has been immediate. About half the population is in desperate need of food aid. Famine is spreading, and armed groups and their allies are battling out and have been accused of committing genocide. The USAID suspension has completely halted food programs serving millions of people and shuttered community kitchens that operate in areas that are too dangerous for big agencies to enter. Nearly all of the 10,000 global employees of USAID essentially will be placed on administrative leave or furloughed or terminated by the end of Friday. Career civil servants who have worked at the agency for 20 plus years are left with nothing. There is also almost no one left to process people to even leave from missions abroad. There are people who will be stuck in dire circumstances, people in Kinshasa, people in the DRC, people in Ukraine, people working in countries where there's active insecurity. There is no way for them to know how to leave. There are people who have worked their entire lives for USAID who have moved their entire families. There are people with families with kids who are not sure what the next step is. And the way that the Trump administration has gone about this is extremely cruel. The impacts of this will reach everyone across the sector, not only USAID workers, but people working at implementing partner organizations, people working at NGOs and international NGOs, and the people receiving assistance. USAID has helped to cut extreme poverty from 1.9 billion people in 1990 to 736 million people in 2015. The reach of this is going to be devastating worldwide. USAID makes the United States safer. Our programs strengthen health systems in vulnerable countries to prevent the spread of infectious diseases. This is amid an Ebola outbreak currently identified in Uganda. This is after the COVID pandemic. USAID supports media programs that counter disinformation by Russia and China. They deliver essential services in post-conflict countries to fill vacuums otherwise filled by terrorists. They create jobs and prevent violence to stem outflows of migration. USAID is national security. USAID also advances U.S. interests through soft power by working with governments and the people of these other countries. We work towards these shared goals. USAID builds goodwill abroad. We cultivate partnerships between urban centers, rural villages. We often operate alongside the U.S. military in conflict zones, complementing hard power. It will encourage more migration when people don't have services anymore. It will also deflate people's goodwill of America. Do you know what builds goodwill for the American citizens? When there's an arms attack and people are displaced and USAID is there with temporary shelters that builds goodwill. When there is no safe drinking water left because the water has been contaminated, and we come in with rehabilitating water sources, that is what builds goodwill for the American people. When a famine is declared and we come in with food commodities, with nutrition assistance for malnourished babies, that is what builds goodwill for the American people. Taking this away will do the opposite. And it puts so many people at risk, especially the local implementing partners on the ground, who will be forced to tell people that we are pulling assistance. Missions in every country have foreign service nationals, people who are from that country, working and dedicating their lives to the United States government. With the recent notice that basically all of USAID is going to be put on admin leave or terminated, no one knows what this means for our local colleagues. In a lot of places, these colleagues have nowhere to return to. In places where USAID is working in a country that is at war, such as Sudan, there is nowhere for our local colleagues to go. They cannot get visas to other countries. They have already fled their home country, and they've dedicated their lives, often years, working for the US government, only to be stranded and left behind. No one knows what is going to happen to them. They have not been told anything. Our budget accounts for less than 1% of the federal budget. We have been backed by bipartisan support for more than 60 years. We serve Americans every day because we stop pandemics before they reach the US. We reduce illegal immigration by improving conditions in other countries, and we help create stable democracies that become strong trading partners and allies. So foreign aid isn't a charity, it is a strategy. Lives are at stake. The American people can help USAID. They can get the word out about what is happening. They can call their representatives and they can tell them that Americans deserve a government with lawful oversight and not reckless upheaval of an entire agency. They can bring attention to the illegality of this entire process. They can highlight how DOGE staff without proper clearances entered secure spaces and systems that contain classified information and personnel information illegally. They can speak out about how DOGE removed the USA website, making it difficult for anyone to fact check the false claims that Elon Musk and Trump are pumping out. The president cannot abolish USAID. The American people need to attend protests, such as the one happening today on February 5th. While President Kennedy created USAID with an executive order in 1961, Congress established USAID as an independent establishment within the executive branch through the Foreign Affairs Reform and Restructuring Act in 1998. The president does not have the authority to abolish USAID. Call your representatives and keep speaking out. Thank you for listening.